preliminary matter, this is Aaron Vandestein, the chair of the Grafton Public Library Board of Trustees Policy Committee. Please permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. John Babrisky.
John, aye.
And Beth Schreiber.
I apparently can either control my computer or my screen. I am here.
Okay, great. And Debbie Jackson.
Here.
Okay. I don't believe we have any other speakers that are listed on the agenda, so I'll continue on. So good evening. This open meeting of the Grafton Public Library Board of Trustees Policy Committee is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted on the town's website at www.grafton-ma.gov, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. For this meeting, the Grafton Public Library Board of Trustees Library Subcommittee, Policy Subcommittee is convening via Zoom video conference as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and that take care not to screen share your computer. Anything you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials that have been provided members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along with using the posted agenda unless I note otherwise. We're now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda, and after they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking, and please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in colloquy with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. I don't believe we have any public comment on the agenda, but we do often leave room at the end for participation. Okay, so you can keep going. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. Great. Okay, so first item on the agenda should be the call to order. Second is approval of the minutes from August 31st, 2022. So do I have a motion to approve the minutes from August 31st, 2022?
This is John. Motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, motion made. Any second?
I second the motion.
Great, motion made and seconded. Any discussion? So, Debbie, the minutes that I was looking at, I think were from the beginning of the month, and I think we just noted that the person who was with the disabled adult was the aide and maybe not the parent. Is that accurate, Beth? Yeah. So I think we just need to note that in the minutes. Otherwise, I think that's the only thing I wanted to note. Okay.
What page is that on, please?
Say again?
What page is that on?
Oh,
so I can correct.
I don't have it in front of me.
Hang on.
It was, I think, on the first page.
Okay,
We're close to it.
all right. We can make that change.
Yeah, I think the intent was that Christie had said that it's not up to whether the parent is satisfied. I didn't mean that the parent was involved in that particular situation. So if that got mixed up in the notes, we can make that more clear.
No, I think that's okay. That's a good point, because if that's what was discussed, then that's what should go in the minutes. I was thinking about the incident. Okay. Well, I don't think we need to amend it then, if everybody agrees. It's fine as is. Any further discussion about the minutes? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, Aaron, aye. John,
John, I.
Beth,
Hi,
and Debbie.
Aye.
Great. Moving to the next item on the agenda is the verbiage for the appeal process. Okay. Beth, do you have a copy of that?
yeah, I just need to find it. So I have a choice of, I can have my internet plugged in, my mouse plugged in, or my camera plugged in. So I'm really struggling with my keyboard. So I could go off camera, if that's okay, so that I have full control.
Sure.
No, sorry. Don't have my usual setup either today. Okay.
I also have it in a Word pad if we need to look at it.
I have it. So this was shared with legal, who said, looks great, no changes.
Say that again with legal.
It was
looks
shared
great,
with
no changes.
Yeah, it was shared with legal, who said they did not have any changes. Town council said it was fine. And
Great.
reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it looked great. It was a bit long to post it on every policy is my only concern. So
Yeah.
what do you guys think about how to note the appeals process on all the existing policy?
Council's recommendation was that it simply go on the policy page on the library website. And it could go at the top or the bottom. So it's distinctive.
Okay.
It would just apply to all policies.
Great. That sounds great. So what about noting that there's an appeals process on all the policy, right? So for every posted policy that may not be on the website, somebody who's handed a copy of the policy, right? It should note that there's an appeal process. Any thought regarding how that's noted on existing policy?
I think it's a policy change and would have to go on every single policy and be reviewed and revoted and adopted again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that can be an ongoing process as we approve new policy and make that change. I don't want to go through and grab 20 policies and bring them up to vote unless that's what we agree we want to do. But I think it's important to include that because that came from Christy or Kristen, who joined us last time.
Christy.
Christy?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, just talking through that process, she thought it was a great idea to add it there because it gives, it gives a process and a time limit, associated with it.
Mm-hmm.
John or Debbie, any other feedback on how to approach that? The existing policy?
This is John. I would say it doesn't feel quite worth it to add it to all of the old policies. Maybe we just make a point that whenever we amend one of the old policies that we, attach that little blurb about there being the appeals process. Or if there are certain ones where we feel it's really important to have the appeals process, then we can go and add it to those.
Okay. I agree with that. Any further discussion, Debbie or Beth?
Yeah, I'll just say, I think the line that would go on policies as we update them would be this. Should any patron be dissatisfied with the reasonable accommodations offered, they may follow the appeals process as outlined, and then we would say, on our website at this link.
Yep, perfect. Yeah, just that line, I think, covers it. Okay. So I'm sorry, I think I probably should have, I think on the agenda, this is up for a vote, correct?
I think so.
So if we're ready to vote, I'll certainly hear a motion to approve the policy.
This is John, motion to approve the policy.
Can you know which one?
The appeals process policy.
Great. Motion made. Any second?
This is Beth, I'll second.
Okay. Great. Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion on the policy, on the motion? Okay. Hearing none. All in favor? Aaron, aye. John?
John, aye.
Debbie?
Aye.
And Beth?
Aye,
Great. Nice work, Beth.
thanks.
It's
So
always great when something goes to it goes to legal and they say looks great. So
yeah,
it means you're on the right
so-
track.
we're calling this a policy? Then this goes to the board meeting for them to approve? Is that my understanding of the process? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. We don't actually approve policy. That should have been
Right.
noted. So I
And this
think-
is actually a procedure, not a policy.
yeah. So we approved the verbiage for the appeal process.
Okay.
Right. I
Right.
think that's what we were doing there. Are we all agreed?
Yes, but point of order, and I would welcome Colleen, who's here from Select Board, to jump in. If we're gonna change what we're calling it, do we need to do a new motion and vote?
Yeah, I think it says approved verbiage for appeal process. So I think that's appropriate. We should do an amended motion or a new motion to approve the verbiage for the appeal process.
Thank you.
So I'll hear a motion. You're
So-
welcome to make it too, Beth.
Oh, okay. I don't want to steal John's thunder.
Motion to approve the appeals process.
So moved. This is Beth.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of the motion? Aaron, aye. John,
John, aye.
Debbie,
Aye.
and Beth.
Aye.
Great. I declare the motion carried. All right. Let's see. The piano policy. So there's no vote here. I think it's just an update regarding the piano me service. Debbie, I believe, right? You were looking into that one.
Yes, I have. Where is it? Piano Me adds 15%, a 15% user fee to the cost of the piano rental that is displayed for potential renters. The piano needs to be insured. The other point was, in order to receive payments from Piano Me, we would need to set up an account through Stripe. It's a popular payment app in Europe. But it's used by like Booking.com, Shopify, ASOS. Payments are made by renters through Visa, MasterCard, American Express, or Diners Club. Payment will be transferred to the piano owner 7 days after booking. A booking has successfully been paid. The renters can cancel up to 24 hours before a session. There are no refunds for cancellation under 24 hours prior to the booking.
Okay, thank you, Debbie. is this something that policy committee would like to pursue as part of the piano policy? I, for one, think it's a nice idea. The only question I guess is the piano would be insured. Does it have its own insurance, or how does that work? Being a owned by the library.
This is Beth. I have requested that we get a quote for insurance, but I think we're trying to clarify ownership of the piano. There was conveyance from Capital Campaign that they would like to ensure it's never sold. And I think it was a gift to the library or a donation. I don't know that I can guarantee that after my tenure or if Capital Campaign's around in 100 years and the library's around in 100 years, it's not going to be the same people. So like it wouldn't make sense when you give something to an organization, you usually don't get it back or have rights of first refusal. So I'm working with William Blake to clarify that with the Capital Campaign. If the Capital Campaign owns the piano and it's on loan, there needs to be a contract and they would cover the insurance. If it is a gift and owned by the town would treat it like a household would treat a valuable jewelry item and do it like a separate additional insurance for the piano.
Okay.
I would say my concern is Stripe and electronic payments and the town's ability to support electronically collecting money on the library's behalf that would go into our gift account. So right now we don't do any electronic payment. So I can bring that to accounting and the treasurer collector's office and the administrator.
Okay. And William Blake, has he been consulted on that, being somebody who, deals with some of the web presence for the town of Grafton?
Well, I've just learned that the product is Stripe, so no, not yet.
Okay.
Yeah, he's under town administration though. So it would be a check with town administration, treasurer, collector, and the accounting department. If it's feasible. If it's not, then I think we just can't offer it, and that's okay. It's like you said, it's a nice idea, but if it's not easy to collect the money, then we can't do it.
Okay. So is this the only item that's holding us up from putting out a piano policy? I believe that it is. I think we felt otherwise, the way we wanted to present it, seems satisfactory, at least for the first go. Because I know Capital Campaign is eager to allow the public to use this piano.
Mm-hmm.
And I am too.
We do have a local piano teacher who wants to do a facility rental on a Sunday in January and a Sunday in June to host his students a recital and reception. So he's paid and booked. He can play but he hasn't filled out the form that Debbie set up yet. But that's a straight room rental. It doesn't involve Piano Me at all. So
may I make this recommendation? And we can table the Piano Me app part of the policy. And we can bring the policy without the Piano Me app part of it to the Board of Trustees. And if we find that we want to add that to amend the policy later at a later date and do that, I mean, there's nothing stopping us from bringing the same policy a month or two after, it gets approved. Or is that I'm going to use the wrong word. Is that gauche? To do that, to bring something for approval just to change it in a month?
I don't think so, but we could also decide that we're just going to table Piano Me for a year or 6 months. Like, I don't know that it will be we'll get more money from instructors who want to rent the space after hours to have a private recital, I think, than from somebody randomly deciding that they would like to rent the piano for an hour.
Okay.
This is John. So I believe if I read this correctly, if you're, if you live in Grafton, if you have a Grafton library card, you can just reserve the piano for free, right? Isn't that the first point right there? Number A or letter A?
Yeah, so we would ask for some demonstration of proficiency and this is a question coming in from Colleen Roy. So kind of going down the list, 1C seems very subjective. Who will determine somebody's ability to play? So we have a short questionnaire about what are you going to use it for? Have you been taking lessons? More to ensure that no one's going to come in and just bang on it for fun. And that was a concern of the capital campaign. But yeah, anybody could request to use it. We just want to know that they're just not going to bang on it to see what it sounds like.
Yeah, and so my question, this is John again. My question, I guess, was more about the Piano Me thing. I guess who would be using Piano Me to book the piano?
Musicians who are in town for any reason and the place they're staying doesn't have a piano and they want to play, so they can get on the Piano Me app. It's like Airbnb for pianos, and people, like I have a 1920 something upright AW Lawson piano in my living room, and I could, if I wanted to, list it on Piano Me and generate revenue from people in the Boston area who say, yeah, I'm looking for a piano, I want to try this one, I need a practice space, university won't let me in, Apple Tree Arts is private, and they might want to spend money to practice with no other options.
There's another question from someone in chat.
Yeah, thanks. Private lessons are not allowed. Would a parent be allowed to come teach their child? Is that considered a private lesson? I think we could clarify that if that would be free, there's no money exchange, then it's not a problem. But I think for commercial use, that's what we're trying to prohibit. Unless you want to rent the space after hours for that purpose. So we could clarify that private lessons for a fee or for a charge. Private lessons are only permitted under facility rent. Please note that we still haven't done any facility rental because we still don't have a gate at the bottom of our stairs to make after hours library use available without a paid staff member on site. I have no ETA to fix it.
So I was going to say, just kind of recap. This is John again. I think it's fine if we table the Piano Me app, part of the policy. I'm wondering if how successful that will be, just based on however many people are kind of in the area and would want to use the piano, but because really, like, in theory, all the Grafton residents are covered because they could come in. If they don't have a Grafton library card, they can sign up for one. And then we do have coverage for the if you want to actually rent it to do recitals and concerts or other private events. I guess my one question is, what would be the reason for not allowing, what's the main reason for not allowing private lessons? Is it just that it's a commercial endeavor and we're not getting compensated, or is it that we want to reduce the number of uses of the piano during library hours? Is that kind of like why you mentioned, after hours rental for that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, certainly if you're playing after hours, you're not disturbing people. Although I think it's beautiful sound. I don't find it disruptive. I think related to our meeting room use policy, which is during library operating hours, activities in those rooms are free and open to the public at no charge. So if someone wants to have a real estate seminar, then anybody should be able to walk in off the street and attend without a barrier of, oh no, this is private and you owe us money. So we instituted a facility rental for after hours use for those kinds of events, Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday. And I think somebody making money, commercial purposes to give a lesson, that means that anybody from the public can't just walk in and participate or watch the lesson. It becomes then a private event.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
That makes sense to me.
Mhm.
And then Greg Marr had a question.
So
Debbie had a
hold-
hand up.
hold on a moment. I just want to go back to H, right? So I think we're agreed, H should stand as it is. But I think the question was like, if a kid is proficient and the parent wants to come and sit with the child and use the piano, not necessarily, I mean, you could consider it be a lesson, but as long as it's, you know, you can't you're blocking off this area for just private use of the piano. Is that kind of what we're talking about here? Because can't people rent the room
After
privately?
hours. Yeah, after hours. I mean, technically, per our meeting room policy, any meeting at the library is a public meeting that anybody should be allowed to attend. And that's when people sign up to use a meeting room, they're supposed to check off a box that says they read and agree to that policy.
Okay.
Technically, which means if you have a Girl Scout troop meeting and those members have paid dues to attend and somebody wants to walk into the meeting, it's in a public library and there shouldn't be a barrier of you can't go in.
Okay, great. Any further discussion on the piano policy?
Debbie has a hand up and I still have a question in the chat. So, but
All right.
Yeah.
Debbie,
I wanted to share a bit of good news, and that is that we have a lock on the gate.
oh, okay, that must happen today.
We do. It happened Monday.
Monday. Okay, great.
It happened Monday, so that's available now.
Okay.
excellent.
Are
So,
we
yeah,
changing the verbiage on H to say something about private lessons are not permitted during library hours or not permitted for commercial gain or something along those lines? Or private are only permitted with room rental?
What is the stance on tutoring? Or am I blurring the lines a bit here?
Yeah,
It's-
I mean,
it's almost
yeah,
the
we
same
allow
idea.
tutoring.
Say again?
We do allow tutoring. And we try to limit so that there's turnover. So we don't have like a single tutor monopolizing the room. That's a bigger concern. We also ask that the person being tutored, their family or themselves, make the reservation for the room, not the tutor. Just to
So,
sort of diversify it.
mhm.
Yeah.
For profit, unless designated after hours, something to that effect.
Sorry, this is John. I'm a little bit confused. So tutoring would be allowed, but
Tutoring's been allowed, yes.
okay, but private lessons are not permitted per the piano policy. So do we want to? Well, yeah, I guess I'm not sure what we want to do there. I mean, I'm fine changing this to just restrict it to, private lessons for commercial gain are not permitted, kind of like Debbie was saying, if that's the route we want to go with it. But yeah, I'm not sure what else we may want to do there.
So may I make a suggestion?
Mhm.
Policies are meant to, this is the first time we're putting a policy like this out. If we find that the policy needs adjustment, we can decide to make an adjustment, right? So perhaps we remove H And if it becomes a problem where people are trying to book time on a weekly basis, kind of like Beth says for tutoring, and that you try to limit it, then, we go back and amend the policy. I don't know. Do you think that might work, Beth?
I think so. Right now, yeah, we don't allow block booking. So the idea is you make a reservation, and as soon as that meeting is over, you can book the next meeting, whether that's an hour later or a day later or a month later. That would be fine. I would say the only lingering concern is there's limited space in the building for large groups to meet. And if people are booking the room where the piano is frequently for 2 people to use the piano, and multiple larger groups in town, whether it's the Scouts or Republican Town Committee or homeowners associations, aren't able to get into the meeting room for their meeting because people are having a private lesson, then we have to just address that conflict.
Mm-hmm.
There's only so much space.
Yep. So do we agree to remove line H?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. And there's line H. No, I'm teasing. Okay. So any further thoughts on the piano policy so that we can bring the draft to library trustees?
I just had a question about even once this gets approved by the board, we still need clarification on who it belongs to and how it's going to be insured before it's going to be used?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think so.
Who is that? Who makes that call?
I think it's been tossed out to Capital Campaign and they need to respond to the town's email.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, but I don't think that has any bearing on this policy. I guess unless it's approved, because once it's approved, then people are allowed to use it based on the policy, right? And if it's still up in the air on how it's insured, I guess we can't allow it to be used, right? Was that the point?
Probably makes sense to insure it before we make it available.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Can we approve the policy at the next meeting, or do we have to and then table posting the policy until, because I really want to get something in the trustees' hands because we haven't been putting things in front of the board as often as I would like. I'm not trying to push this one, but do we have to wait until we get a decision on the insurance, I guess I'm saying.
Can you write that into the policy? Policy goes into effect when the piano is insured.
John's nodding his head. I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, we do have in there, this is John again, library staff reserves the right to refuse access to the piano. I mean, that kind of covers it, but we can put something in there specifically for insurance, or, if or for whatever circumstances, if the piano is unavailable, then we can't rent it out.
Just let me know where you want me to add a line in.
I think you had it right where John mentioned.
M, yeah, after M under the, up under section 1 after M.
No, I thought there was K.
Have an M.
Sorry, it's K now.
Things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm looking at my old one.
Okay. The wording one more time. Until ownership is established and insurance is obtained.
I mean, I think it probably warrants a separate line, right, John?
Yeah. Or yeah, you could, I mean, you could also say like, for example, in the case that the piano is not covered by insurance or is unavailable for other reasons.
Oh, yep.
Not insured or
Thank you.
unavailable for any other reason.
So the bit about not be permitted to conduct lessons, right? That may be kind of in conflict with the private lessons bit that we just mentioned. In line I.
Mhm.
I mean, is that more of a kind of a conflict of interest kind of thing, or
Sure.
Beth, I'm not sure like how strict you are about those things, but like if,
Pretty strict.
okay, so maybe we have to leave that in there just so that there's no issue with that.
Do we need to clarify that library staff and volunteers may use the piano on their own time? As opposed to during their shift or during,
Well,
was during their shift?
Um,
I think that goes without saying, but
yeah. Again, policy isn't meant to be ironclad sometimes, but if you find that it needs to be adjusted because, you know, staff and volunteers are using it when they're supposed to be working, then I guess you got to add it to the policy. But you know, I think if it's part of a program, like, then yeah, I mean,
staff talent night.
um, teaching a class, I guess, you know, or teaching kids about the scales, right? If one of the library staff or volunteers has, you know, some skills that they want to share with the community. It's not necessarily a lesson, right? I guess, like a private lesson.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say something to the effect of like business hours and things, but I think that kind of goes without saying about, you know, their duties and things at the library. So
Yeah, I think I'm okay with the line. I just wanted to
Yeah.
point it out for discussion. But okay. Any further discussion on the piano policy? Do we agree that we're ready to put the draft in front of the Board of Trustees? Yes.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
gonna add in the appeals process line.
Excellent. Great. Nice work, Debbie, and nice work, Beth. Thank you very much. This looks great. Excited to have this for the library.
Thank you.
I think we need a motion to bring it forward.
Okay, so how did we do that motion the last time so we get it right the first time?
Well, this is actually a policy. So my contention was we're calling a process a policy and it's not. Sorry. Semantics.
And is this to approve the entire policy or just to bring it to the board?
So honestly, I don't even know that it requires a vote to bring it to the board. Right?
Okay.
Or the motion could be something to the order of, you know, that we all agree this policy's ready to go to board approval, something to that effect. But I don't feel it needs to, you know, have formal approval by the four of us, unless you guys feel otherwise.
Well, how about I just make a motion that we take the piano policy to the board? Does that work?
Second.
Okay, great. Any discussion on the motion? I'm fine with that, so I'll call a vote. So all in favor of the motion, Aaron, aye, John,
John, I.
Debbie,
Aye.
and Beth.
Aye.
Great. That worked fine. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to the next item on the agenda, and for time's sake, there's a lot of new business, and we're at 7:45. So certainly, if we want to prioritize the new business, we can decide to do that. We don't have to go in the exact order. But Beth, do you have any preference?
Yeah, I will say that we have this draft donation policy, but it mentions friends donations, and we have not been able to set a meeting with them for them to look over the policy or discuss donations. So I would suggest tabling that until we can come to a meeting with a board member and the friends.
Okay. So we'll table the draft donation policy. Any preference what we discuss next? I can just go in order.
I think code of conduct, because I think that's why some people are here.
Okay,
That would be my suggestion.
okay. So I had some difficulty because trying to determine what if there were proposed changes. Are there proposed changes?
Yeah, changing the age. Because
14?
to 13. The
13.
unattended child policy says kids under ages 14 and I think older are allowed to be at the library unattended. Maybe code of conduct says 14 and older, but unattended child is 13 and over. So we just want them to match. So I think we want to change 14 in code of conduct to 13. And then when I opened the document to look at it, I realized that one of the things we have been trying to doing at Marty's suggestion was, instead of having bullet points for a list of items in policy, to put in like index style of formatting, so that you could say in section A, number 3 or letter A. So I changed, hang on a second and I'll share it. So I also made that editing change. It is not a content change. So this the current document says policy with kind of an overarching policy. This part in green, reporting is the responsibility of all library visitors to go to staff if there's an issue. And then I added in this formatting, and I made sure that all the references to Mass General Laws, MGL, were consistent with either brackets or abbreviations. So that's why there's that formatting. And then at the end, we actually spelled out a procedure, which is here. All the crossed out green, I think, was procedural. So I just shifted it, and I didn't want to go through and clean it up and track changes, because then you can't see what was changed. But a policy should be a policy, and procedures are things staff do. And the procedures on the code of conduct were staff response to code of conduct violations. So it's just outlined here that when somebody's in violation of any library policy, minor infractions, which are the non-MGL things, public misconduct, disruptive, annoying behavior, we give a verbal warning and point out the code of conduct or the policy, followed possibly by written warning, followed by expulsion. And then we try to reconnect with the visitor. But when things are dangerous, illegal, we immediately eject the person, and then there can be a suspension. And sometimes there's a notice of no trespass served. So it just rearranged, but the only edit is really that we're going from 14 to 13.
Oh, okay. So the fact that it's procedural doesn't mean that it's taken out of this particular policy, right? It's just put in a different.
Okay. It's formatted a little, so the visitors know what to expect.
Absolutely, right. Even though it's more for library staff, you know,
Yeah,
on
well,
how to respond to certain types of behavior. It's always great to
Yeah,
spell
well,
it out for people. Yeah,
yeah, like telling a library staff member they have to complete an incident report. Like that doesn't really belong here. That's an internal thing.
okay. So I'm not sure that I saw this copy. I may have missed it though. So I'd probably like a little bit more time to review it.
Okay.
But I'll certainly hear any other discussion if others are ready to comment on it.
Just for reference, Aaron, this is way at the bottom of the agenda. It's like the last thing that has, or second to last thing that has all of these changes that Beth is showing us.
It's a 41-page document. Yeah, town clerk said put it all in one, so we did.
Can you repeat that? I'm not sure I understand.
When I submitted the agenda, we scanned in or sent an electronic copy of every single policy that was listed on the agenda,
Oh,
including like, here's the unattended child policy, so you can see where it says 13. Here's the current code of conduct, and here's the new code of conduct with my suggested, like formatting changes, and the number 14 changed to 13, and the paragraph moved, and the incident report struck out.
gotcha. Okay.
So I can't do them side by side. I'm not that skilled in Zoom, but I can pull up the current policy to look at, and then we can go back to the Word document with the changes. It's a matter of consistency. That's all.
Okay.
I could also run through the track changes and give you the 2 clean documents to look at. Our next meeting is only in a week, I think, for November 5th, 2 weeks. Could hold off till then.
So would the intent be to bring this one to the Board of Trustees as well?
Oh, yeah,
I mean, if it's minor formatting changes and just updating the age, I don't see why not. So I'm okay to review the track changes now to have the clean document ready to go to the Board of Trustees. I got a nod from John. So if you don't mind just pulling it up, Beth, I'd be happy
sure.
to do that.
Okay. Maybe I need to be at the top of the page for all of them to go through. So
Yeah, I think you can click accept all
here we go.
all changes. Oh, great.
There's a
Yep.
space, and we'd want to add in that appeals process line.
Yep.
Formatting. I will put in the full URL. I'm not able to get to it at the moment. It's graftonlibrary.org/about/policy.
Yeah.
When are we meeting? 26th. So accepting changes did something weird with my indexing here. Outline format.
Yep.
So I think I need to further clean it up to see.
Okay.
I think that's right. It's just the numbers are too big.
But so I guess
Like
you
watching
had,
paint dry. I'm really sorry.
I mean, you had said though that like the only actual functional changes to the policy were just the age.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah. This was part of it. It was just relocated and not called out as a procedure.
Do we want to just do this kind of offline and say, have you send out the finished version of this document to the entire board, and we'll plan to still
Mhm.
review it there if that's the only real change? Or Aaron, would you feel more comfortable waiting on the kind of completed document?
No, I think we could probably hear a motion to to agree to bring this to the board for, formal approval at the next, trustees meeting, pending the formatting changes. Something to that effect. We've done that before.
Mhm.
Okay, I make a motion to bring the updated code of conduct policy, or just the updated code of conduct, pending any formatting changes before the board meeting next week.
Any
I second.
Great. Debbie seconded. Awesome. Any discussion? Great. Hearing none. All in favor? Aaron, aye. John,
John, aye.
Debbie,
Aye.
and Beth.
Aye.
Great. I declare the motion carried. Okay. Next on the agenda. Whoops. I have the update security camera policy.
I think I sent a note that I want to bring it to legal. The proposed change that I had suggested was that we state that our cameras are only for incidents in the library building and on the library grounds. And because of the way they're aimed and our inability to zoom in and nobody's, watching them 24/7, that it's very difficult to provide requested footage for in front of the library on South Street in the Common, or Upton Street, or across the street in front of the townhouse on Grafton Common, or that Worcester Street intersection. And we've had people get into accidents and ask for that footage. So I would like to put in a line that we don't have the resources to provide that, but I think that legal counsel needs to advise.
Yeah. So Beth, I can comment on so I work at a bank, and we have cameras all over the place, and there's often requests for footage that really aren't bank related. So kind of like what you're saying, that's a very busy area where the library is. And usually if police officers, are responding to an incident, they'll often be able to point out, cameras that may have caught some of the footage.
Mhm.
But I don't think it's up to the library to reasonably have to point cameras in a way to capture, things of that nature. If it happens to be pointing in that direction where an incident happened, sure, is that kind of what you were getting at?
Yeah. But even if, we'd have to review footage and look to see if, say, the white pickup truck was at the library at a certain time and left at a certain time and then headed on a trajectory towards, say, Worcester Street in front of One Grafton Common or the antique store, but that's all we could provide.
Yeah, I think that, has this happened?
Yeah, multiple times. I get a lot of requests, and I see people on Facebook recommending that they ask the library for their camera footage when we have a form. But the incident didn't happen in the parking lot. It happened on other property or public property out of our camera range.
Yeah.
It feels a little futile.
That doesn't really sound.
But
that doesn't sound that helpful, unless it's like a police matter where the police are trying to establish the time at which someone was in a certain place. I'm not sure how that would even be helpful in some sort of insurance claim scenario. Unless the person's just flat out claiming they weren't there, but
I think it's a question for council, because if, if we are mandated to do it, then of course we'll do it. You just have to fill out the form. But the requests are increasing. And I said, well, I'll take a look, but no, like our camera for the front of the building for the historic reading room entrance and exit, like it literally just points down the steps. And you can't see the walkway, you can't see the common or the street. And I had trouble, we had somebody back into our 2 EV chargers, and I could see the truck, but I can't get a read on the license plate number from any angle except for the vehicle exiting or entering the parking lot.
Yeah, I don't think there's any expectation to have that sort of clarity. Most of the camera footage I've seen, from security cameras, you really just can get billed of an individual, or like you said, a white pickup truck. You can't assume to get, detailed information from say a license plate. Okay. Yeah, I mean, if you want legal's, take on all these increased requests for specific types of footage, I mean, I think the response is going to be basically what we discussed, but I'll certainly leave that up to the people who know this stuff better than I do. Okay. Any further discussion on the camera security policy? Great. So we are at 8:01 p.m. I think we decided to table the donation policy, but we have the review of the draft privacy policy.
I'm looking for it. Hang on. I might have closed it. Many policies. One moment. There it is. So this was a policy we talked about in the last year or so. So it did go to legal a while back, and then I think just never got reviewed again to get moved forward to the board. It's a policy regarding what the library does with people's library records. So it's not like a guarantee of privacy when you sit down at a library computer necessarily. It's just that, the library record, the circulation record, your database searches, your conversations with staff, your attendance in the building. We don't share your email address, like that's all confidential.
Yep.
And you would need a subpoena to get that information.
Okay. No updates to the age here. Library transactions of their children under the age of 13.
Right.
Okay.
State law.
Yeah, I think if this is past legal, I'm happy to hear a motion to bring this one to the Library Board of Trustees.
This is John. I'll make a motion to bring the privacy and confidentiality policy to the Board of Library Trustees.
Great. Any second?
This is Debbie. I second the motion.
Great. Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? I don't see the last revision date on this policy. Do you happen to know what that was?
It's a brand new policy. So it was worked on by previous policy committee, brought to legal, and then not reviewed again and moved forward. So it would have only a single date when it gets approved. I think we talked about changing this compiled and voted by too. It should just be adopted and reviewed. So I'm gonna change that.
Yep, I agree.
Because policy subcommittee compiled. And it looks like there might be some formatting that needs to be edited. It looks very small.
Do we have the part about the appeals process in there? Or does that?
Let me add that in, and we're gonna find- Nope, hang on. Thanks, Debbie.
You're welcome.
Good oversight.
Wow, that's fancy.
Yeah, I have no idea why. It's a very old document.
For future reference, I think if you do Control Shift V, it'll
Yes.
paste without the formatting.
Okay, I will try that. Thank you.
Or if you like go to the insert menu or whatever, and there should be an option for like paste special, and you can tell it to do it without the formatting.
Control Shift V. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I'll assume they'll vote it through and change the date if they don't.
Any further discussion? Okay. Hearing none. All in favor? Aaron, aye. John,
John, I.
Debbie,
Aye.
and Beth.
Aye.
Great. I declare the motion carried. All right. The draft art display policy. I know this was one, again, a new policy. Had it been worked on by the previous policy committee?
No. Nope,
Okay.
it's brand new.
Okay, great. So we can open the floor for discussion. So I don't believe we're gonna approve this to go to library board, correct?
Probably not.
Not in a week. Okay. Great.
They have a lot of ARIS report and financial stuff to read.
Okay. But yeah, I haven't dug in too deeply on this one, but certainly if you want to talk about it, Beth, if you were the one who was primary writing this document.
Yeah. I looked at we always look at best practices. So I looked at other library documents. I think that maybe this came from the Lawrence Public Library. A lot of it, we just tried to tailor it. Hopefully it doesn't say Lawrence Library anywhere on it. So the idea is kind of that, we're always trying to get equitable access and have, different people, as many different people using the library and its resources as possible. So we want to rotate monthly because we're not a commercial entity. Materials aren't for sale that are displayed in the library, but the artist could have a facility rental event if they wanted to do like a Friday or Saturday night reception, but they would have to pay a fee for that. It says that we don't endorse content, but also that the content should be, acceptable for public viewing, including, if it's by the door, kids are going to see it. And we have to be conscious of that. We might consider that there's a subcommittee needed to approve requests. Like, I don't think the policy spells that out. It says that might be a possibility at some point. And that these are all artistic things that we're looking for when people submit their art, whether it's whatever medium or style it is, sculpture, painting, photography, collage. We're looking at all of these qualities before we agree that it's appropriate and has a place to be displayed in the building. Art has to be original. It says that artists will give us the right to use or publish images of their work to promote it. That the display has to be appropriate for the space available. That we won't accept things that are discriminatory or sexually explicit or violent or purely commercial. That they can't have a political bent to them. we saw like a current politic bent. That we reserve the right to remove anything that's a safety hazard that's too big, that becomes a maintenance problem. Like if it's a provocative thing and people are congregating around the art constantly and folks coming into the library can't get through past the art display to do their library business, then that becomes a problem. And anything that's under concern, the exhibitor could discuss it, could say with the library director or their designee. That's consistent with our other policies. And we would note the appeals process too at the end. Some of this is practical. We have art rail installed in a couple of places in the building and in the community meeting rooms. There's sort of chair rail at the top of the room where we can hang things coming down from that, but size and weight are an issue.
So Beth, I would just add to that sentence, size and weight of individual pieces may be limited by space available, or, yeah, yeah, I think that works.
Again, to rotate people through one exhibit per year. The exhibitor is responsible for scheduling time to install and label the exhibit. And because we generally have custodial at 7:30 most days, we can be pretty accommodating with people getting into the building. I don't know if that's in conflict with like staff are not allowed to climb up and stand on ladders. But you know, the policy actually says that exhibitors could do that. I don't know if there needs to, this hasn't gone illegal yet. There might have to be a line in there, like they need to have somebody with them or spotting them or waive any liability.
So,
nothing can, oh, go
so
ahead.
Beth, the
Yeah.
bit about one exhibit per year,
Yeah.
is that consistent with other library policy? So one item per year?
I think it's more one artist can put together a display or show once a year.
Show.
Yeah.
It could be multiple works of art.
Normally, I think it will be multiple works of art. You know, somebody with, they've taken pictures all around the town of Grafton. They're a local photographer. And they only got one item into the juried entry for Small Stones Festival of the Arts, but they want to know if they can hang their photos of Grafton throughout the building for 1 month. Yeah, and then you can't display again for another full year.
Yeah.
You know, I think that that's different than say, well, even like an art teacher who practices out of their home or their business, and they have 30 students and they're going to display 30 student artworks. Then maybe the teacher, the exhibitor who's convening the display would get one time per year. But if the student has a piece in that exhibit and with another teacher or on their own, like, I don't know. I think it's about the convener of the exhibit, kind of similar to the meeting room convener. You know, we have to finish the meeting before you get to the next one, but we're generally not telling people that they can only meet once a year.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
You know, we're happy to add in an exception, or it could be an appeals process. You know, I did it in January and I'd like to do it again in November, and you don't have anything else on the books. No one has expressed interest and it's October 20th and I have something ready to go. Then we'd say, okay, yeah, we'll make an exception for you, as opposed to letting the space be empty.
Right. And you think the appeals process would address that?
I think so.
I think so too. Okay.
This is from our meeting room policy that we don't affix anything to the walls. You're not allowed to hang up balloons, streamers, but also, you know, photos or pictures or signage, no nails, no push pins, no tape, no sticky tack.
Okay.
Once the exhibit is installed, we want to leave it up as is, as opposed to someone coming around and taking time to rearrange it and take it down and move it. Just to lessen impact on staff oversight. The exhibitor must be identified by name within the display. Groups can't charge an admission fee or request donations or price their work. And I would say an exception would be if they pay to have an after hours opening, then they could do that for the duration of the opening because they're paying to use the space. You can have a binder with a price list. I'm not sure where we would leave that. Probably at a circulation desk.
Would that be noted nearby the art display?
I think, yeah, I think we could add a sign.
Okay,
And with the name of the artist or the name of the exhibit. Yeah. A lot of artists also want to have like a guest book for people to sign and comment on the work. We don't
Okay.
really have, like, there isn't a table unless we take up space in the Friends Corner for that, you know, that's a possibility. Exhibit areas are open to the public only during open hours of operation. Exhibitor is responsible for any damage. They won't take it down too early, nor will they leave it up past the agreed upon date. And a staff member, which would include custodial, would be available during setup and breakdown of the exhibit. Should I keep going? Do we have any comments?
no, I think that's great so far.
Very thorough.
Thank you for taking us through that.
It just the places they're available that then the convener or exhibitor has to take care of the security, that we don't charge a fee, but we'd like gifts. They can create their own marketing materials. We're only going to include very basic things in our library newsletter. And then there has to be kind of like our meeting room, you know, forms or a process for people to apply to exhibit. Google form or whatever.
Is this something that the current staff are able to adopt and put into practice, right?
Frankly, I would say no, that everyone is at a breaking point and not
Yeah.
able to take on anything new at this time.
Yeah.
Since you asked.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, when the policy committee is reviewing this in depth, I think it's a good idea to keep that in mind, that, you know, maybe we're not ready for this yet. And we may not want to, you know, start art displays, an art display policy until, you know, we feel it's appropriate for the library. So.
Kind of question for Beth, I guess, when Aaron, when you guys had mentioned something about the staff being able to do this at this time, what role does, other than custodial, what role does the staff have in this?
Well, technically the form would come to the administrative office where you and I work, Debbie.
Oh, where I am very
So-
busy. Okay.
Yeah.
We are very busy. Good point. We don't need, no, I'm kidding.
Yeah. But also, like, we've been open to the public for a year. Not all of the art rail got purchased. And like, I honestly haven't had time to go and count what's missing and make a new request to the capital campaign to fill in the gaps. But it feels like, you know, we should be able to just do this and handle it. And it's just like another new thing.
Yeah. So I'll probably defer to you, Beth, if this is something the library is ready for. You know, there is a bit of, like you said, PR. I think I read in there as well, in working with the artists, you know, reviewing the artwork, putting a policy, putting a subcommittee together. I don't believe that policy committee should be necessarily the art, you know, approver,
Yeah.
right? So we'd have to put, you know, a subcommittee together for that. Not necessarily on behalf of the Board of Trustees, and although the Board of Trustees could be the ones to put that subcommittee together. We can discuss it at the next, if it's on the agenda at the next, you know, library Board of Trustees meeting.
Could the subcommittee, does there need to be a subcommittee, or could it just be, I'm trying to think of how we've worded some of the other things, subject to library staff approval? I mean, does it need to be, I'm just wondering because of how how kind of spread thin everyone is, and how hard it is to get people to sign to be on committees. That if, if we have an art display coming in, we've approved the application and pieces are coming in, can it just be 2 or 3 staff members that just look at it and say, yes, this is appropriate for all ages and it meets the criteria quickly? I think it's just a quick once over. It doesn't have to be a big analysis of the art. Because I think what we're going for more is, does it meet that criteria as far as not being explicit and appropriate for all ages and that type of thing? It was just a thought to simplify the process.
Yeah, I think that's fair, Debbie, if Beth feels that's appropriate for the staff.
I don't think you're going to get staff to volunteer on a committee to oversee this. Unless
No,
it's
I wasn't saying staff on a committee. I was saying just if we know that on such and so date, art is being brought in for approval and there are 3 people working in the circulation department, can those 3 people just for 5-10 minutes just do a once over of the art and say, none of this is violent, none of it's explicit, it's all appropriate for all ages, and it meets those key criteria, and just have it be a quick once over instead of a whole committee thing that feels like more work and more pressure.
Okay, I would say it's not in anybody's job description, frankly, to take that responsibility, unless it was somebody who wanted to. We're looking at offering the senior library associate status with a caveat that you have to be responsible for the entirety of some process. So for some people that's volunteering, for some people that's the museum pass program, like art approval and managing exhibit space annually could be a senior library associate task. But we'd have to either find somebody to promote and give that to, or create a position and get funding.
Okay.
Yeah, which is why right now it's just an admin office thing, kind of like the meeting room approvals for facility rental in the large meeting room and the conference room.
Okay, can it say something about the director and their designee or something? I'm just looking at how can we not have to form another committee of people that are already feeling stretched pretty thin?
Yeah, if I could just chime in. So I totally hear what Debbie's saying, and certainly if we're not going to all be art critics, and we're not looking for a subcommittee of art critics, but really just somebody who's kind of I don't want to say arbiter, that's not the right word, but somebody who's kind of responsible for making sure that it meets the policy criteria. And, Debbie, I think that would be something that, you may want to consider or talk over with Beth, because it almost seems like does it meet, the policy criteria, period. So I don't know, something for you guys to discuss offline. Okay, any further discussion on the art display policy? Okay, hearing none. Let's see, I think that was the last of that was the last policy. So great meeting. The next item on the agenda is public input. So I'd like to open the floor to any of the public who are joining us this evening. Any comments in the chat for the policy committee? Seeing no further questions or comments in the chat, I do appreciate everybody joining us tonight. And I encourage you to reach out to myself or attend another policy committee meeting. And if you'd like to be on the agenda to speak on any of the topics that we have on the agenda, certainly let us know ahead of time. We'd love to hear from you. Great. So the next meeting is scheduled for November 2nd, 7 p.m. by Zoom, which is the Wednesday after the Board of Library Trustees meeting. Does that seem to work for everybody on the committee?
Yep.
Let me just make sure that I can commit to that. Yeah, yep, that works fine for me. So great. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Great. Any second?
Second. This is that.
Great. Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? I wish everybody a pleasant evening. How's that?